creativity kit, free samples, and so forth. But that's essentially it. Really simple, really focused.
So you've been there about a year.
That's right.
Right. And where were you beforehand?
I was at Chipotle. I ran digital marketing, and your probably next question was I there for the food crisis? And I was, which is I think another podcast as you mentioned. I was there 5 months before, when I was the cool kid from among all my friends. I got the gig at Chipotle. I worked on Jordan Brand as a client, and Jordan Brand was like jealous, which I found fascinating. You're Jordan Brand, but and then 5 months later, the food crisis hit, which is seriously a whole other podcast. And then I spent a year trying to build the brand back up and recoup the sales and the comp sales and try to get it back to where it should be. And there's a big e-commerce story there actually too. And then came to Box in November of last year.
So before we get into Box, just about Chipotle, was there in terms of, that was a crisis that clearly, social media helped to inflame. It wasn't like it was very difficult to control the narrative.
Yep.
So I guess my question is, what was a core lesson that you learned from that experience, other than don't ever work for a food chain like that? But what was a core lesson that you got that said, okay, this is something I can bring to my next gig,
Sure.
which is this?
Definitely take your pick. There was a lot. I would say we could have been even more transparent, and it wasn't like we're hiding things, but sometimes in food, if you work with fresh food, if you guys know, there's a high risk of contamination, high risk of things. You can go to Love Madison per se, or Chipotle when you're cooking fresh food, limes, lettuce, tomato, just a high likelihood of that. And you're in that industry, you feel like everyone wants to know what the smoking gun was, right? So you try really hard to find out what it was. And during that time, Costco, Starbucks, Trader Joe's, they all had breakouts, but they were able to identify what the item was and recall it, and then you never heard about it, right? But for a lot of reasons, you heard about our story. We didn't know what it was, and we were trying very hard to find out, but because of the way food is and our supply chain was, it was in now the systems of people and the restaurants, so it was hard to trace back. We can narrow it down, and we didn't feel like people wanted to hear, we don't know what it is, we think it's one of few things, and that was probably one of the biggest issues. We should have been more transparent what we do and what we didn't know, and update people even more frequently. And the second piece is we should have seen the signs beforehand, meaning there was a lot of things that we're seeing in the marketplace of fast food and restaurants, which is largely dominated by lunchtime, Monday to Friday, and the category was becoming very, very tight between delivery options, between the Sweetgreens, Dig In and Outs of the world, between the Chick-fil-A's and Panera's having a pretty great story, and then the big guys having the same sourcing story that we did, essentially, from a marketing standpoint. So that was all happening, and then the food crisis exacerbated that. The food crisis was not the issue, that was just something that revealed a bigger issue within the market, and we were behind from a technology standpoint, from a CRM standpoint, from an e-commerce standpoint. So that would be the second piece, is see the signs before your back's against the wall, which is very hard to do when people are making a lot of money and the stock is a growth stock and it's crushing. It's very hard to say, we should fix this, this, and this, which would be instrumentally and fundamentally change entire business and require a significant investment. It's hard to say that, right, until it's too late.